Welcome to Wellness and Mindfulness Digest 2026-06-17. Today's 11 stories. Story 1, 5 yoga poses to promote some seriously deep breathing. Story 2, 15-minute morning yoga routine that you can do in bed. Story 3, 9-minute morning yoga for full body tension relief. Story 4, breathwork for anxiety, sleep, and emotional regulation. Story 5, breathwork for nervous system regulation, 3 techniques for calm. Story 6, exhale to prevail. Story 7, from burnout to balance, using mindfulness-based stress reduction. Story 8, emotional awareness for parents, how mindfulness reduces your stress. Story 9, transcendental meditation benefits, techniques, and history. Story 10, midweek mindfulness reset, Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Story 11, cultivating inner peace, 10 practices for a calm and centered life. Story 1, 5 yoga poses to promote some seriously deep breathing. Transcendental meditation, commonly known as TM, is one of the most studied and culturally prominent meditation practices in the world, and Britannica's encyclopedic entry on the subject brings together its rich history, core techniques, and growing body of scientific evidence into one authoritative resource. Written by J. Gordon Melton, a distinguished professor of American religious history at Baylor University, the entry draws on sources ranging from PubMed Central Cardiovascular Research to major clinical platforms like the Cleveland Clinic and WebMD. TM was developed by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in the 1950s and exploded into global consciousness in the 1960s when high-profile celebrities, most famously the Beatles, publicly embraced the practice. A photograph of Maharishi with George Harrison and John Lennon at a UNICEF gala in Paris became one of the defining images of that cultural moment. Since then, TM has attracted serious scientific scrutiny, particularly around its effects on cardiovascular health and stress reduction. A PubMed Central evidence-based review on TM's role in preventing and treating cardiovascular disease is among the external references cited, alongside a Frontiers in Psychology study on a school-based TM program called the Quiet Time Initiative. What makes this entry particularly significant is what it signals about TM's position in contemporary culture. The fact that a major reference encyclopedia cross-references both medical journals and consumer health platforms like WebMD and Healthline reflects a broader trend. Meditation practices once dismissed as New Age spirituality are increasingly being evaluated within evidence-based medicine frameworks. Institutions like the Cleveland Clinic now offer informational resources on TM, suggesting a degree of mainstream medical acknowledgement. That said, critical questions remain. TM is commercially organized, involves paid instruction, and has faced legal and institutional challenges over whether it constitutes a religious practice. These dimensions are unlikely to be fully explored in an encyclopedic format. For anyone seeking to understand TM's true evidence base, the Britannica entry is a strong starting point, but primary clinical literature and independent analyses are essential companions. Story 2, 15-minute morning yoga routine that you can do in bed. Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health has established a recurring midweek mindfulness program through its Center for Mindfulness in Public Health, and it represents something more significant than just a stress relief session for busy professionals. By embedding a structured mindfulness practice within one of the world's premier public health institutions, Harvard is making a clear statement. Mindfulness is not a fringe wellness trend, but a legitimate, evidence-grounded public health tool. The program, called the Midweek Mindfulness Reset, is designed to help participants reduce stress and calm the nervous system. It is led by rotating expert faculty, ensuring that participants are exposed to a variety of mindfulness approaches rather than a single instructor's style. The recurring nature of the sessions is deliberate. Behavioral science tells us that habit formation requires consistent, accessible touchpoints, and a predictable midweek session is well suited to that goal. What makes this program particularly noteworthy is its framing. This is not a yoga studio or a wellness app. This is a program designed and delivered by academic researchers who study the intersection of mindfulness and public health at a population level. That framing matters because it shifts the conversation from individual self-improvement to collective well-being, the kind of paradigm shift that could influence how employers, schools, healthcare systems and governments approach mental health and stress management at scale. Of course, questions remain. We do not have specific outcome data to evaluate whether participants actually experience meaningful reductions in stress or improvements in physiological markers. We do not know how many people participate, whether the program is open to the public or restricted to the Harvard community, or how the center plans to measure long-term impact. These are important gaps that the center will need to address if it wants to make a compelling case for the broader adoption of mindfulness-based public health programming. But as an institutional signal, this program is a meaningful step forward. Story 3. 9-minute morning yoga for full-body tension relief. The Inspiring Wishes Guide to Cultivating Inner Peace is the kind of content that millions of people encounter every day when they search for ways to manage stress, anxiety, or a general sense of overwhelm. It presents 10 practices for achieving a calmer, more centered life, and while it is not a research paper, it is worth examining carefully, because articles like this shape how ordinary people understand and practice mental wellness at scale. The guide opens with mindful breathing, specifically the box breathing technique. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, pause for 4, and repeat for 1 to 3 minutes. This is a genuinely evidence-supported technique. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system and helps regulate stress responses. The article makes a point of noting that this is not a spiritual belief, but a physiological fact, a deliberate move to secularize the practice and broaden its appeal beyond spiritual audiences. From there, the guide introduces mindful observation, simply noticing your surroundings without judgment, and then gratitude journaling, where it offers a specific and psychologically sound recommendation. Be concrete. Rather than writing, "I am grateful for my family," the article suggests writing something like, "the sound of my grandchild's laughter on the phone." That specificity matters because it forces genuine recollection rather than rote habit, which research suggests produces a stronger shift in mood. The article also references the concept of negativity bias, our evolutionary tendency to focus on threats, as a scientific rationale for why gratitude practices work. This is accurate as far as it goes, though the article does not cite any research to support the claim. The limitations here are real. There are no author credentials, no citations, and no guidance about when self-managed wellness practices are insufficient and professional help is warranted. But the article's accessibility and practical clarity are exactly why it reaches large audiences. For anyone in health communication, public health, or mental wellness advocacy, content like this is important to understand, because it is, in practice, where many people begin their wellness journey. Story 4. Breathwork for Anxiety, Sleep and Emotional Regulation. This article explores how deliberate breathwork patterns can reduce physiological arousal associated with anxiety, support emotional regulation, and improve sleep quality. It explains the mechanism by which slow breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, shifting the body from a threat state toward calm. The content spans several key interest areas including breathwork, nervous system regulation, sleep, and emotional well-being. Story 5. Breathwork for Nervous System Regulation, 3 Techniques for Calm. This article outlines 3 specific breathwork techniques designed to regulate the autonomic nervous system and promote a sustained state of calm. It frames nervous system regulation not as the elimination of stress responses, but as building a resilient, balanced internal state. The practical technique focus makes it useful for readers seeking actionable tools. Story 6. Exhale to Prevail. This article discusses how slow, controlled exhalation-focused breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system and distinguishes between calming and more activating forms of breathwork. It provides a clear, science-grounded overview of the physiological basis of breath-based nervous system regulation. Published very recently, it reflects current popular interest in the topic. Story 7. From Burnout to Balance, Using Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. Centerstone is offering a virtual MBSR-based training program designed to help professionals understand and manage stress, improve well-being, and build practical mindfulness skills. The program draws on the evidence-based MBSR framework developed by John Kabat-Zinn, making it a credible and structured resource. It directly addresses burnout, a highly relevant topic in 2026 wellness discourse. Story 8, Emotional Awareness for Parents, How Mindfulness Reduces Your Stress. This article reviews research on how mindfulness strengthens emotion regulation using Gross's model as a framework, and examines how mindful parenting reduces stress and improves parent-child interactions. It references peer-reviewed studies and applies them to a specific, practical context. The neuroscience-informed approach aligns well with interests in scientific research on mindfulness and emotional well-being. Story 10, Transcendental Meditation Benefits, Techniques, and History. Britannica provides a well-structured, editorially reviewed overview of Transcendental Meditation, TM, covering its techniques, history, use of mantras, and reported benefits. Updated with a Cleveland Clinic reference from May 2026, it is a reliable foundational resource for understanding one of the most researched meditation modalities, suitable for readers new to TM or seeking a credible reference. Story 11, Midweek Mindfulness Reset Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Harvard Center for Mindfulness in Public Health offers a recurring midweek mindfulness session led by leading instructors, designed to reduce stress and calm the nervous system. The institutional credibility of Harvard and the rotating expert faculty lend this program significant authority. It represents a practical, accessible mindfulness resource grounded in public health research. Story 12, Cultivating Inner Peace, 10 Practices for a Calm and Centered Life. This article outlines 10 accessible, gentle practices for cultivating inner peace and emotional stability in daily life, with a non-dogmatic, spiritually open framing. It emphasizes actionable steps and integrates mindfulness, meditation, and somatic awareness. While not deeply research-cited, it offers grounded, practical guidance aligned with holistic wellness values.